Hello. In episode 4 of the History of India, Ancient and Medieval Period, we are dealing with part 2 of Harappan civilization. So, under this, firstly, we'll start with the connection of Harappan civilization with Mesopotamia. And it is a contemporary civilization that was in the Middle East during the time of Harappan civilization. And we'll see its connection with Harappan civilization. And we can see some Harappan seals and some other small objects in Mesopotamia relating to trade. So traders are using these seals for stamping their goods. So in that way, we have this evidence of Harappan seals present in Mesopotamia, that there is some trade relation between Mesopotamia and Harappan civilization. And even the Mesopotamian literature speaks about the merchants of Ur. Ur is in Mesopotamia, and these merchants of Ur were carrying their trade with some foreign countries. So that is suggestive of Harappan civilization, trade with Harappan civilization. So among these, the most frequently mentioned places are Tilmun, Magan and Meluha. So Tilmun is most commonly identified with the island of Bahrain. So there is an island of Bahrain in the Persian Gulf, and that is referred to as Tilmun in Mesopotamian literature. And Magan, we have seen it is Oman, and some other port of South Arabia. Meluha, which is mentioned in that civilization literature, is regarding India. So that means that is India, especially the Indus region and Saurashtra region. It is referred to as the land of seafarers. So Meluha, the land of seafarers, is nothing but India. India meant Harappan civilization. So this is what is written in Mesopotamian literature, suggestive of trade relations with Harappan civilization. The next thing is crafts. The various occupations in which the people were engaged, they spanned a wide range. So the various occupations were spanning in a wide range. We shall see them. Spinning and weaving of cotton and wool. So we know cotton is in usage by the Harappan people, and also wool in addition to cotton is also used. So thereby they have to have spinning and weaving of these two things. And pottery making is also there, bead making is also there. This is especially for making ornaments. So beads were made up of gold, silver, copper, faience. Faience is a kind of ceramic material. Steatite is a kind of metamorphic rock, and some semi-precious stones, shell and ivory. Ivory is a white creamy material that is derived from the husk of elephants. So all of these things are used to make beads. So bead making is one special occupation amongst various occupations. And seal making also. So in order to make seals, we need to have ivory. So for that reason, square or oblong ivory. Oblong is something like rectangle shape. So some rectangular ivory things and faience things or steatite things are used to make seals. So this is something about crafts. And also they were beautifully glazed. So craft work need to have glazing for the attraction. So they were beautifully glazed and also carved with some motifs of animals, birds, men and gods. And there is also a terracotta manufacture. So it included a large number of small figures like children's toys, etc. So terracotta is baked earth. So that would be used to make toys. So that terracotta manufacture is also there, that was making toys in Harappan civilization. And also one important occupation is bricklaying. So in order to make bricks, one has to lay the bricks. So it is not the work of a mason, but a bricklayer used to be there for this particular purpose. The next thing is pottery. So pottery also comes under craft. And pottery, the typical type of pottery of Harappan civilization is black on red pottery. So this is very important. Black on red pottery was in usage, was turned on a fast lathe. Lathe is a round machine or tool that would rotate. So that pottery is made on that machine, and glazed and ornamented with black bands, or more rarely with figures of birds, animals, geometrical designs. So any triangle, rectangle shapes, and also some birds, animals, they were all crafted and used to make some attraction out of pottery. So that was also there. Among the notable shapes are pedestal dishes. So pedestal dishes are these kind of dishes that would have a cup and that would go into a small lid to carry the cup. So this is a pedestal dish. So those shapes of dishes are found Goblets are also found. Goblets are nothing but wine glasses which we have today. So wine glasses. So these are goblets. These are all cutlery, different kinds of cutlery used by Harappans. Purported jars and various kinds of bowls are also found. So all of these add to the craft work during that time. And they were having high skill in metal working. So metal was very much in the usage, because that is after Neolithic period. So metal is also there. So it was used in a very high skilled manner. They made fine jewelry with this metal of gold, bronze implements, copper beakers, saws, chisels, knives. So out of metal they made so many things. They used the Sair-Perdue methods for casting bronze. Sair-Perdue method is a method to cast bronze in which clay and wax are used. So a mold will be there. In that mold, wax will be poured, it will be melted, and shape will be brought out of this bronze. So that is a kind of casting bronze method, that is Sair-Perdue method. So that is there. And the famous figure of the dancing girl, which is made out of this particular Sair-Perdue method of making bronze, is recovered from a place called Mohenjo-daro. So Mohenjo-daro is a very famous Harappan site. So this dancing girl made out of Sair-Perdue type of casting bronze method is found in Mohenjo-daro. This is one important point out of Harappan civilization. And there are also, craft also includes stone sculptures. So though they are rare and undeveloped, stone sculptures are also there. And one example or evidence of this thing is, there is a head in stone. A bearded head is found that is made out of stone in Mohenjo-daro. It is a well-known piece of art. So from Mohenjo-daro, two important pieces of art or craft works are found. They are dancing girl made out of bronze and bearded head made out of stone. Both of them are from Mohenjo-daro. So this is about crafts during Harappan period. The next thing is science during Harappan period. The Harappans knew mining, metal working, and the art of constructing well-planned buildings. So we have seen well-planned buildings in the past. So there is also a huge building which might be the building of an officer. Also we have seen. So there are very many buildings in the Harappan civilization. So that indicated they were having a good plan. And also metal working was also there, some of which were higher than 2 stories. So some buildings are more than 2 stories. So that is a beautiful science, and that is the most biggest technology that they could have at that time. They were also adept at manufacturing gypsum cement. So they were very highly expertised in making gypsum cement. So gypsum is a kind of sulfate product, calcium sulfate dihydrate. It's actually, so manufacturing gypsum cement is one thing which was used to join stones and even metals. So out of that they made buildings. By joining stones, metals with gypsum cement, they built these buildings. So that is a huge technology or science we can speak under Harappan civilization. They knew how to make long lasting paints also. So they also painted, they also had dyes to paint. And Mohenjo-daro even had a public bath. So we have seen a great bath in Mohenjo-daro. So that is called a public bath. So building such a huge place to bath or a huge place of water is also some big technology or science during that time. So that was worked by an ingenious hydraulic system. So that water bath or great bath or public bath was with some intelligent hydraulic system. So hydraulic system is a kind of system in which energy is through flowing of water. So energy is traveling through these fluids. For example, we use electric motors and all. So that is under hydraulic system. So this kind of system was existing, and this is the science we can speak under Harappan civilization. Next we'll see the social organization of Harappan civilization. It is generally agreed that Harappan society was a stratified society. So that was with stratification, that was with differentiation and in various strata levels, with some kind of hierarchy in place. So hierarchy and stratification we can take out of this sentence of social organization of Harappan civilization. The material remains from different sites, and especially the spatial division into upper and lower towns. We have seen there are two types of towns, upper towns and lower towns. We have also seen difference of citadel and residential area. Citadel is a fortified area. A fort will be there and something inside a building will be there, and a residential area is not fortified. So these kind of differences are there, upper town, lower town, citadel and residential area. So all of them The people living in Citadel were segregated from those in Lower Town. So they were having this differentiation or segregation. Citadel is fortified, but Lower Town is not fortified. So that shows people had some differences in their social structure. The segregation of different localities was carried to an almost ghetto-like perfection at Dholavira. Ghetto-like perfection. Ghetto-like is like having a slum. So in a small way we can say at Dholavira. Dholavira is a Harappan site in Gujarat. There is this slum-like setup. So that is how the things are segregated in social framework of Harappan civilization, where the habitation was divided into 4 distinct well-defined parts. So the whole of Dholavira is divided into 4 parts, well-defined parts, of which castle was for rulers. So castle, a huge building, we can say, is for the rulers. The bailey is not as big as castle, but not as small as a house, but it has got so many rooms, and also a bailey to the west of castle for noblemen. So bailey for noblemen, and a middle town was there. So all of these things are segregated. The middle town is occupied by merchants, craftsmen, and land owning class. So this is not a poor class, but not a very rich class like noblemen. So a middle town for a middle class people, we can say like that. Whereas the lower town was occupied by the service class, so labor class or 4th class people. Service helpers used to live there in lower town. So in this way the society is segregated, and the places they live are also segregated. So the evidence for these things are from Davalikar 1997-68. So this is a reference of this part of the topic. We can thus presume class and rank differences based on occupation. So based on occupation there is a class difference and rank difference also, based on occupation, based on wealth, and based on status also. But to insist on the existence of a caste system, nobody can say truly that there is a caste system, like some scholars have done, will require more substantial and unproblematic evidence. So there has to be evidence that there is a caste system in Harappan civilization. So far we have only come to a conclusion that there is this difference based on occupation, wealth, and status, but we are not sure about caste system. What we can say on the basis of our current knowledge is that Harappan people were rural. So they were having rural mindset or rural setup of towns and villages, and they're also provincial. They're having their own provinces, and they're urban folk. So though they are living in urban areas, they are a kind of folk people. So this is how their society is present, and their occupations include. So we come to a conclusion that they are rural, provincial, and urban folk based on the occupations they adopted, like farming, animal husbandry or animal herding, hunting, gathering, fishing, sailing, boat making, carpentry, masonry, craft production, trade, shopkeeping, sweeping, garbage collecting. So what all we have today, they were having then. So based on only this kind of lifestyle, we can come to know that Harappan people are rural, provincial, and urban folk. So this is their social framework. There were also groups involved in superstructure maintenance. So some groups are also involved, like rulers group, administrative officers group, or priests or ritual specialists. So there are groups of people like that. What the nature of the interaction and transaction of these groups was, whether groups perform multiple functions or whether they were endogamous kin groups, cannot be said with certainty. Endogamous kin groups are these groups which cannot allow others or outsiders to come in. So for example, if we take the priest class, maybe they do not allow other class people to enter into temples and do the rituals. So that is called endogamy. So they are close to themselves and they get married within that group, and they allow no one into that group. So whether this kind of kin groups were existing or not existing, it is a debatable point. So this is some huge social organization of Harappan civilization. After the social organization comes the political organization. It is not clear. The first word is it is not clear at all, because as to what sort of political organizations Harappan had, because in Egypt and Sumer is Mesopotamian civilization. So they are called Sumerian people. They belong to Mesopotamia, Middle East. So those areas, they are also referred to as dark-headed people. So Egyptian and Sumerian people they were having inscriptions, and those inscriptions can be deciphered. So they recorded everything. So they left behind these inscriptions. But Harappan people, they did not leave behind such inscriptions. So thereby we cannot know the system of government, their society, their religion at all, like Egyptians or Sumerians. So we don't know what kind of political organization was existing during Harappan period. It is only on the seals made of clay or stone that besides a picture there is a line of pictograph, that is the Harappan script. So this is a very Hephaestus script that nobody can decipher. It is not yet deciphered. So it is in the type of pictographs, and that is also on in the form of seals on clay, stone and all. So we cannot derive anything out of that. So because of that, we do not know the political organization of Harappan civilization. And finally, we have an enigma here. Enigma is some mystery or things that cannot be understood about the civilization. R.E.M. Wheeler once described that Harappan civilization as the vastest political experiment before the advent of Roman Empire. We know Roman Empire is the earliest, so far as we can say, it is the earliest, biggest political organization, the first political organization kind of thing in the world. So Wheeler says that Harappan civilization was much earlier a political system even before the Roman Empire. So it is a kind of political experiment in the world before the advent of Roman Empire. This is what Wheeler said. But the nature and ingredients of this experiment, like its social structure, that all remain conjectured and open to debate. So nobody can come to an understanding of the social structure totally. That is all debatable because there are no clear inscriptions or writings from Harappan civilization. So though Wheeler says this, we are not with full-fledged evidence to say this. The continuing debate on political structure of Harappans, drawing evidence from structural and artifactual remains from its various sites, revolves around the twin issues of the existence and nature of the state that accomplished the Harappan phenomenon. So we have to have two things in mind while debating about this point. That is, was it a centralized empire? So first thing is it having a centralized ruler? Was it a centralized empire or a merchant oligarchy? Oligarchy is a form of governance or a political organization in which a group of people will be joining and they will rule the place. For example, priestly class. So in Egyptian civilization and Mesopotamian civilization, the priests were the heads. So they used to rule. The priestly class used to rule the whole of the civilization. But is there such oligarchy of merchants in Harappan civilization? We do not know. Or a network of city-states. City-states are independent states that can rule themselves. So was it a centralized empire or an oligarchy or a city-state? We do not know. So these things have to be kept in mind while debating on the political organization of Harappan civilization. Whether it's the first one or Roman Empire is the first one, we do not know. So this is a debatable mystery or enigma, hard thing to understand about Harappan civilization. The chief criteria of a state society include monumental architecture, bureaucracy, coercive power to enforce its decisions on its subjects. That means harsh powers, some authoritative power by some people, and biological evidence indicating differences in subsistence system. So how they used to live. Is there any evidence for animal husbandry, agriculture, craft work? So any biological evidence as such. And differences in mortuary remains. So and as well defined territory characterized by a four-tied settlement hierarchy and a large population. So these are the criteria that have to be kept in mind while deciphering about the political organization of Harappan civilization. So whether it was a bureaucratic form, executives used to be there, or a ruler used to be there, that all has to be coming from architectural evidence, biological evidence and all. And also some territorial evidences also. So we saw a castle for rulers. So by that we can come to an understanding that there used to be a ruler, but we cannot totally give an evidence of it. So that is how we must try to decipher things of Harappan civilization. It will be seen that very convincing evidence is available from the excavation of Harappan sites fulfilling all these criteria, and there should be no hesitation in identifying the Indus civilization as a state society. So what we can speak is it is a state society. So out of the evidences and excavations, we can come to a conclusion that Harappan civilization is a state society. That means state and society will have good relations with one another, with each other. So state is some ruling thing. We are not sure of what kind of rule it was, whether it is a bureaucratic rule or a ruler single authoritative rule or an oligarchy, we don't know, but something that is ruling, that is having good relation with people. So the people, public, society and the rulers were working hand in hand. So this is what we can derive from political organization of Harappan civilization. The existence of a Harappan state is largely accepted though its nature that is whether it is an empire or an oligarchy or a chiefdom. That means a chief head used to be there or what, we don't know. Or it is an early state. Early state is something that is having some having some indefinite system of statehood. That means it is not totally matured state, but a very poor administrative organization and immature administrative organization. That is called an early state. We don't know if it is an early state also. So all of these things have to be debated. So that is how we must end about the political organization as a mystery about Harappan civilization. So the next thing is, what are the indications that show that Harappan civilization has a central authority? Some indications are there. We'll go about that. The sheer range and volume of products utilized by the residents of these cities of Harappan civilization indicated a centralized ruling authority. What are indicating is the range and volume of products. So all these products have to be maintained. So there is a huge when there is a huge volume of products, for example, when there is a huge volume of jewelry, somebody has to maintain that. So thereby we can come to know that there must be a central authority to trade this jewelry. So this is one suggestive factor, which could possibly be a class of merchants. The next thing is the tools and weapons and bricks show a remarkable uniformity of design. So all the weapons were uniform, bricks are uniform, tools are uniform. So this will not happen when everybody prepares their own tools. So this happens when there is a system of political organization wherein all these things are prepared by one single authority. So this also shows that there is suggestive of a central authority in Harappan civilization. The axes, chisels, knives, spearheads, etc. made out of stone and bronze seem to have been produced on a mass scale. So they are produced in a very huge volume and numbers at places like Sukkur. Sukkur is in Pakistan. So there is a place for manufacturing tools, and these tools are produced in a mass scale. So there must be an authority to do this. Seals representing marks of authority of traders. So traders used to have trade with Mesopotamian civilization. We have seen that through seals. So seals are there on the products. So whether these seals are from the administrators or rulers, we don't know, but there must be some authority. Were found in large numbers, particularly at Mohenjo-daro. These seals are found. Many these were particularly at Mohenjo-daro brought from faraway lands. So all these seals show that there is trade from faraway lands, and these seals were having a uniformity. So that means there is some central authority. Trade was an important part of the civilization. Also, in sharp contrast to Egypt and Mesopotamia, which were ruled by the priestly class. So Egypt, Mesopotamia were ruled by priestly class undoubtedly, because they have all of that inscribed. But unlike that, this Harappan civilization has got no temples. So no temples have been found at any of the sites. So definitely we can say there is no priest class ruling in Harappan civilization. There must be a ruler, there must be some bureaucrats, or there must be a chiefdom or oligarchy, but there is definitely no priest class because there are no temples. So this is something we can know about things that speak about having a central authority, some indications or suggestive things about having central authority in Harappan civilization. The next thing is Indus script. The Harappan script is logosyllabic. So logos, we have different kinds of shape that forms a logo. For example, I'm drawing a logo of my own. This is nothing but a small picture. So a logo is a kind of something that will be having a shape. So a huge indefinite shape. So a logo, each logo will give a syllable, and each syllabic picture will be a syllable in that script. So that is logosyllabic. For example, to understand easily, a Chinese script is a logosyllabic script. So if you can go through some Chinese script, you can be able to know that. So the Harappan script is logosyllabic in character and was written in Boustrophedon style. Boustrophedon style is writing from right to left. So we usually write in this way, like this, and again come back and write like this, like this. But this Boustrophedon style is from writing from right to left, and after that going from left to right again, and writing from right to left again, and going from left to right again. So in these alternate ways, writing in these alternate ways is called Boustrophedon style. So Harappan script, Indus script or Harappan script is having this Boustrophedon style. Its most prolific use being on seals. So only this style is written mostly on seals. The script has not been deciphered so far. Nobody can understand that right now, until now. But overlaps of letters on some of the potsherds from Kalibangan show that The writing was boustrophodon, or from right to left and from left to right in alternate lines. So this is what is boustrophodon. So we have seen them on seals. The evidences show them on seals and potsheds also from Kalibangan. Kalibangan, Harappan site in Rajasthan. It has been referred to as Proto-Dravidian script. So we have different scripts. So this is one thing. Proto-Dravidian. Most inscriptions are short, the longest containing about 26 signs. So earlier we have seen that there are 10 words or 10 continuous Harappan words written in Dholavira. So Dholavira is a place in Gujarat. So Dholavira site shows 10 written words of Harappan script. But the longest containing was having 26 signs. So in all, though there are too many signs, around 375 to 400 signs in Harappan script. In the absence of a satisfactory decipherment of Harappan script, most reconstructions of its polity, society, religion, ideology are conjectural and tentative. So all we speak about Harappan civilization is tentative and just assuming assumptions and debates, because we cannot decipher the this inscriptions or the writings of Harappan script. Coming to religion, there are clay figures of some goddess called Mother Goddess. So that shows there is something they are worshipping. So that is worshipped by the people as the symbol of fertility. So this is a Mother Goddess as a symbol of fertility in Harappan civilization. And also a male god is also there. He is carved on small stone seals. By that we come to know there is a male god for them. And the seal immediately brings to mind the traditional image of Pasupati Mahadeva. So the male god is obviously Pasupati Mahadeva. In addition to this, we come across numerous symbols of phallus and female reproductive organs. So phallus or male reproductive organs and female reproductive organs are also worshipped. They are made of stone and they are the objects of worship. And certain trees are also deemed to be sacred, like pipal tree and an animal bull. It is also deemed to be sacred. Pipal tree and bull. Some Indus people buried their dead in graves. Some had cemetery like this. They buried their dead. There is evidence of cemetery in Harappa. So by this we come to know there are graves and people used to be buried. While others practiced urn burial. Urn burial is cremating the body. So the ash will be placed in an urn. So that is urn burial. Some practiced even urn burial also. They probably believed in life after death. So their graves often contained household pottery, ornaments, mirrors belonging to the dead persons. So the dead people, their utensils, their things were placed, believing that they'll have life after death. The bodies were buried fully extended with the head generally pointing towards north. So the head was pointing towards north. So this is the fashion or pattern of their burial. Various clues for Harappan religious beliefs come from terracotta female figurines, phallic emblems and seals, and suggest a shamanistic component. So shamanistic component was seen in their religion. What is shamanistic component? It is that a person from the civilization, obviously an elder person, he or she will be deemed to have some special powers. So special powers to speak to the spirits and to say some prophecy and all. So they will be constantly in a trance. So out of the trance they speak out some things. So that is a shamanistic component of religion. So that is also seen in Harappan civilization. This is something about the religion during that time. Finally, we come to the decline of the civilization. So Harappan civilization is known to have had been declined. It may be that a strong unifying element, perhaps the Harappan state, came to an end. So the evidence of Harappan decline, we have 4 evidences here. Disappearance of seals and scripts. So these seals and scripts were dating to a particular period, time span, and after that we cannot find these seals and scripts. So that disappearance of seal scripts, beads and pottery is one evidence that there is a decline of Harappan civilization. And shift from standardized weight system to use of local weights. We know that there was a standardized weight system for barter system in Harappan civilization. But this standardized weight system was later collapsed into local weights. That means there is some deterioration in the social network. So that shows the decline of Harappan civilization. Decline and abandonment of cities in Sindh and West Pakistan. In these areas, there is abandonment of cities. Abandonment mean people moving away. So there must be a reason for people moving away, and that's how eventually Harappan civilization declined. And the last one is many people moved to newer, smaller settlements to the east and to the south. So they moved away from cities, they moved away from different places, and they were settling in smaller settlements. So this is how slowly Harappan civilization declined. Thus, the urban phase ended with the Harappan communities merging into surrounding agricultural groups, that means the rural places, still retaining some of their traditions. We have seen Harappan civilization has got beautiful urban cities, but that phase has ended. Now they are going to agricultural groups, places. That is, the civilization did not collapse or disappear suddenly, but it transformed into rural culture. So before declining, people from cities came to villages. So that is in a process, not just in a night span the civilization is gone, but through some process with no big structures, specialized craft or exchange systems. All of these things collapsed. Around 1800 BC, the major cities in the core region decayed and were finally abandoned. Cities were abandoned. This is the first thing that happened during the decline, in the process of declining of civilization. That happened in 1800 BC. The process of urban decline appears to have unfolded in various ways. So, how the process of urban decline came out, we will see now. At Mohenjo-daro, there was a steady deterioration apparent in the fact that the walls of terminal level structures were frequently thin. So, towards the end of the civilization, the walls were thin. Earlier, there were beautiful walls and huge buildings, but later on, towards the decline, the walls became thin and haphazardly laid out, not in a usual right pattern, and are made up of unstandardized bricks. So this is some deterioration that we can have as evidence from Mohenjo-daro. This is also true at Dholavira in Gujarat. Even the same thing is true, whose progressive impoverishment was hastened by two spells when the city was deserted. Dholavira was also deserted. Urbanization or urbanism crumbled, and rickety jerry-built structures, rickety or collapsible structures, weak structures. Jerry-built structures are made up of poor quality of bricks and cement and all. So jerry-built structures, small rickety collapsible structures are there in Dholavira, and reused stones are used for building things. So that means they are getting poorer, and the civilization is crumbling. So robbed from older structures came to be commonly encountered. So these are some suggestions that the society is declining. On the other hand, Kalibangan is in Rajasthan. It was abandoned relatively suddenly. So the abandoning of Dholavira and Mohenjo-daro was not sudden, but Kalibangan was sudden because of something, and the same is true for Banawali. Kalibangan and Banawali in Pakistan, both are abandoned in a night's time. We don't know the reasons. In other words, it is not one event. It's not just one event, but different kinds of events that must have led to this disappearance. So no unanimity about these events, about their relative importance. So there is no unanimity in what has happened actually there. That has led to the decline of Harappan civilization. In fact, the collapse of Harappan civilization continues to be a focus of great historical speculation and debate. So the collapse of Harappan civilization is a very big question even today. So this is about how Harappan civilization declined and all. And we'll see some theories or some explanations how this civilization came to a declining. The explanation for the end of the civilization could be Aryan massacre. Aryans should have moved in and they should have done massacre over there. Desiccation is drying away. So the wet of the land is lost, or the moisture of the land is lost. Thereby there cannot be any life or any plant or any animal or man. Man cannot live. Maybe we can say this is kind of a desertification. So this must be one reason for people leaving that place. Tectonic plate shifts, that is earthquakes and movement of earth, that must be one reason. And the changing of river courses. So all of these places, if we see Mohenjo-daro, it is on river Indus, and river Ravi, Harappa is there. So they are on the rivers. So the changing courses of rivers would have flooded these places away. So these are some reasons or explanations or theories put forward by various archaeologists. The decline of Harappan civilization. Harappan civilization, it did not come to a sudden end. Evidence show that there is a process for deurbanization, people coming out of cities. There were different reasons for this. Broadly, because of overutilization of resources. Maybe people used things over there too much and they are out of resources. So that must be one reason. and for that there must be increase in population for draining away resources. This must be one reason. So all of this must have together contributed to the declining of Harappan civilization. So we'll see various arguments by famous historians. Each historian and his put forth theory of declining of Harappan civilization. We shall go one by one. Gordon Childe and Stuart Pigott, both of them, they gave the reason being external aggression. Someone should have come inside and done a war over there, so that people left that place. Mortimer Wheeler, he says that Aryan invasion of Harappan cities. Aryans should have come. That is what Mortimer Wheeler says, and even Rigveda indicates this is true. P.V. Kane, George Dales, and B.B. Lal, three of these people say that this is wrong, that there is no evidence of Aryans coming inside, there is no evidence of invasion. So they are against invasion theory. So these three people are against these two theories. M.R. Sani, Robert L. Riggs, both of them say that the role of natural disaster should be the reason. So natural disasters like floods in Mohenjo-daro and earthquakes or tectonic plate movements, earth movements, all of them should have caused them to leave that place. H.T. Lambrick, he said that unstable river system must be a reason. So due to flooding or unstable river system, change in course of the river should have made people leave Mohenjo-daro and that area. Gurdeep Singh says that onset of drier climate. So we have seen desiccation must be a reason. So desiccation is desertification. So onset of drier climate or this desiccation or loss of wet or fertility of the ground must be a reason. Fairservice said that ecological balance or environmental factor must be a reason, like resources draining away, soil fertility losing, overpopulation, and all of these things must have happened. So that is what Fairservice says. Shairin Ratnagar, he says that decline in trade with Mesopotamia. The reason may be poverty due to decline in trade. So when trade gets down, they cannot live, and so that's how there is declination in the whole civilization. So that is put forth by Shairin Ratnagar. The trade is lost with Mesopotamia. So these are some reasons given by various excavators or archaeologists for the declining of Harappan civilization. Next, we'll see mature Harappan period. That is when Harappa was very fine. 2600 BC to 1900 BC, people were living in urban cities. Late Harappa, that is towards the declining time of the civilization, 1900 BC to 1400 BC, that was when people were leaving urban places and coming to rural places. Next, we shall see some early Harappan sites. 3500 BC to 2600 BC, people were living in rural areas, and that period, after that came mature Harappan, after that came late Harappan. So early Harappan sites, we shall see about some 4 early Harappan sites. Mehergarh is in Balochistan. It is the earliest Harappan site belonging to 5000 BC. Evidence of agricultural things of wheat, barley growing and sheep, goats tending is seen over there. Dam Sadal, it is in Quetta Valley. Quetta Valley is also in Pakistan. It is also in Balochistan part of Pakistan. So this is also some early site. Large structures with brick walls. So brick walls are there dating back to 3000 BC. And painted pottery things are also seen. They are also similar to those things found in Afghanistan. Clay seals, copper objects. So these things are found in Dam Sadal. Rahman Deri, it is found in Western Indus Plain. So Western Indus Plain or Indus River Plain we call it. This is plain of Indus River. So there we see an early Indus township. Amri is in Pakistan, it is in Balochistan, shows the transition to mature Harappan period. The period of mature Harappan time is 2600 BC to 1900 BC. So people were living in urban areas. So these are some early Harappan sites. Here we have something about late Harappan period, that is from 1900 BC to 1400 BC. People came back to rural areas. They were leaving urban areas towards the declining of the civilization. The sites have been discovered in late Harappan period. The important sites are Punjab, Haryana, Western Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat. Gujarat in the sense Malwa region. Malwa region is in west and central part of India, and this Malwa plateau is there over there, and Gujarat comes under that. So that Malwa region and Punjab, Haryana, UP, Western UP, all of them show the decline of Harappan civilization. The overlapping of late Harappan pottery with painted grey ware ascribed to Indo-Aryans has been found at Ludhiana and Jalandhar in Punjab. In these two places, Ludhiana and Jalandhar, both of them belong to Punjab, there is an overlapping of pottery period. That is, Harappan pottery, we know it is black over red, and painted grey ware, PGW. This pottery is suggestive of Indo-Aryans presence. So Indo-Aryans and Harappan people were living together during this late Harappan period, we can say that. So both pottery were found at the same time. So Indo-Aryan pottery and Harappan pottery, both of them together are found at these two places in Punjab. Finally, towards the end of Harappan civilization, we will see Chalcolithic settlements. The Chalcolithic phase was the transitional stage when both copper, bronze or stone, both three of them, copper or bronze and stone, all of them are used. These tools are used by people, and that meant they had some settled life. Chalcolithic cultures that extends from 1800 to 1000 BC. So by 1800 Harappan civilization has ended, but till 1400 BC there is this late Harappan period. So this Chalcolithic period is overlapping Harappan period, late Harappan period also. So that's why we are speaking about Chalcolithic also now. Seem to have existed over a wide area extending from Chota Nagpur Plateau to Gangetic Basin. Chota Nagpur Plateau includes majorly Jharkhand, West Bengal, Orissa, Chhattisgarh. So this part of East India side, this plateau, it was also famous for Chalcolithic settlements, and Gangetic Basin is on the north of Chota Nagpur Plateau. Some of the Chalcolithic sites are Brahmgiri. Brahmgiri is near Mysore, and Navada Toli. Navada Toli is in Narmada. So these two things are also there under Chalcolithic period settlements. Although most stone copperage culture existing in the major part of the country were younger than the Harappan culture, they did not derive any substantial benefit from the advanced technical know-how of the Harappans. For instance, the art of making an alloy called bronze. So Harappans were more civilized than the later period of India. So later we had stone, later we had copper, but Harappans, they are more technology well, they know what and how about everything of technology, like making of bronze. So we have seen they used a technique for making bronze. So they have a technology for making bronze called Sair Perju. So this technology is not practiced in later period. So they are very much well advanced than the later period. So that is the beauty of Harappan people. So bronze tools were almost absent in India. So later, after Harappans, we do not have bronze tools for a lot of time, while the same facilitated the rise of the earliest civilizations in Crete, Egypt and Mesopotamia. But these things are continuously used in Crete. Crete is an island in Greece. So Crete is a big island in Greece, in Mediterranean Sea, and it also has Aegean Sea on its south. Egypt and Mesopotamia. So these three places were known to have continued to use these bronze things and beautiful technological things of making bronze ornaments and all. But after Harappan period, this part, like in India, we don't have the technology that Harappans used in later periods. So this is some beautiful point about Harappans, and they have a very advanced technical know-how of things. So this ends something about Harappan civilization under history of India, ancient and medieval India, and thank you.